Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Niger Innis Presents The Trump Revolution, a part of the TvAbraham network. Well, folks, we are fortunate to be in what is the old ancient Chinese saying? May you be blessed to live in excited times or exciting times. Well, these are indeed exciting times. You look at the news, you look at what President Trump is doing in the international arena, from the brief intervention in the war against Iran's nuclear facilities to brokering, really pushing a ceasefire in the Iran-Israel war, the things he's done to stop a several decade old war between Congo and Rwanda. This president, the stopping the war between between India and Pakistan, this president is on a roll, not just internationally, but domestically. His big, beautiful bill, after narrowly passing the House of Representatives, has just passed the Senate. And that Senate version is going back to the House to get passed. So that singular achievement of his domestic agenda and administration is very, very close. It's on the 1 yard line to becoming law. You might have missed, though, with all these amazing headlines, that the NAACP, one of the nation's oldest civil rights organizations dealing with African American issues, 116 years old. In fact, my organization, the Congress of Racial Equality, can legitimately say that it is a grandchild of the NAACP. We are fortunate enough to discuss the issue of the NAACP disinviting or not inviting the President of the United States, the sitting President of the United States, the first time that the NAACP has done that in its 116-year history, which means that they invited President Woodrow Wilson, who's one of the worst racists and hypocrites in our nation's history as President of the United States. But they decided not to invite President Trump because he is, quote, a threat to democracy, which, of course, is nonsense. Well, I can't think of a better person to have on today to discuss this issue than Terris Todd, Terris Todd, who's the Director of Coalitions and Outreach for the Project 21 Black Leadership Network. And I'm ashamed to say, not ashamed, but I guess a little embarrassed to say, because Terris looks so young, and of course I look so dashingly young as well, but I'm a founding member of Project 21, and Terris is in leadership there now. And this organization, this fine organization of Black traditionalists, constitutionalists, conservatives, some say, is over 30 years old. And Terris brings a wealth of experience to the team, having served in the federal government. In fact, he was appointed to the White House in 2020 to be executive director of the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for African Americans in the U.S. Department of Education, where he focused on working with educational professionals in the public and private sectors to elevate and bring awareness to the challenges faced by African American students all across the country. Terris, it is a pleasure to have you on today.
It's a blessing to be here. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, my friend. Well, let's start here. The fact that the NAACP has decided to get on its high horse and not invite President Trump to their convention, which they have done with every single president since in its 116-year history.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you should bring that up because, I'm also a former, past president of a local NAACP branch in Battle Creek, Michigan.
Oh, wow.
And I'm a life member as well. And so them not inviting a sitting duly elected president, I think was a bad move. I think it shows and exposes their leadership for who they are, that it is politically motivated, in my opinion. I believe that it's very unfortunate because even people in my generation and lower, we quite frankly don't look to the NAACP for leadership. I mean, if they I think they're on life support, to be honest with you. I think they are trying to really hold on to whatever small amount of relevancy they have. The Bible says to everything there's a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. So I really think that the NAACP has run their course, and I think they're just really trying to hold on to whatever amount of relevancy they have by appealing to their handlers, and that's the people who have been funding them. The folks who are pretty much politically leaning on the left. They're just trying to appeal to those folks. So unfortunately, they use this president of all people to try and make, quote unquote, an example, but really they may have done him a favor, because I tell you what, when you think about this move that they made, it also exposes the leadership for not really being on the ground and paying close attention to the outcome of the previous election. The people who they say they're supposed to be representing, they must have missed the fact that he grew in support in that population of people.
Absolutely. And of course, you're talking about the African-American community.
Yeah.
I believe a recent survey came out that showed that President Trump garnered over 20% of the African-American male vote in this election, which is astounding for Republicans. No Republican has had these kinds of numbers going back to maybe Dick Nixon, maybe even earlier than that, to Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Yeah. A better move that they could have made was simply to invite him and allow him to turn it down. But unfortunately, they didn't do that. They just wanted to prove, again, to their handlers and the people who have been supporting them for decades, who still fall for the narrative of, systemic racism, and that our nation is just a horrible place, and that somehow that President Trump is a fascist, which is interesting because they weren't on the front lines during COVID when Black people were being forced, or at least being coerced into taking the shot. As a matter of fact, 40% of Black students in Washington, D.C. could not return back to in-person learning.
Oh, my God.
Unless they had received the vaccine. And so it's like, well, NAACP, where are you at on that issue? We had enough.
Can't think about anything more fundamental to civil rights than having a government say that you are forced to live your life, go to work, to go to church, than taking an injection. I mean, that's civil rights fundamental 101.
You're absolutely right. There's a young gentleman that I know. He's also a Project 21 ambassador. His name is Giovanni Patterson out of Baltimore. He and his wife were on the front lines of suing the Baltimore City Public Schools for their absolute failure of students in that city. And the NAACP wasn't on the front line of that. And so it's like really unfortunate. So again, generations. I'm a Gen X guy, so those who are of my generation and below, I can't think of anyone that really looks to the NAACP for leadership. And unfortunately, they have proven exactly why we don't. Because
what it shows, Terris, is that once you become a functionary of a Democratic, of a national party, be it Republican or Democrat, in the case of the NAACP, it's Democrat, where they are just an extension of the Democrat Party. And you look at the talking points of the day for the Democrat Party and the talking points of the day for the NAACP, and it's a match. Exactly. So I think that is the danger. And what Black folk seem to be looking for, particularly those younger than you and myself. I'm also a later part of Generation X. For those Black folk that are younger than us are looking for is independence of thought.
That's right.
Looking for brave leadership. They're looking for out of the box ideas, and they're not looking for the typical NAACP/DNC solutions to problems.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so as a result of them, and making this move, at Project 21, we actually reached out and we sent a letter to the president inviting him to have lunch with us and our ambassadors to actually share a lot of our policy initiatives or things that we kind of, support him in. And quite frankly, we kind of mirror the exact same thing he's doing. And so anyway, we're waiting to hear back from the White House.
Well, I pray for you, or for us, if you will, at Project 21. The president needs to take that invitation deadly seriously.
Absolutely.
Really consider it. It would be something that he would enjoy immensely.